Hello, friends. Welcome to a solo, just me, myself, and I suppose three people, just me, myself, and I, solo version of Remodelers on the Rise. I do hope that you are enjoying the podcast. Try to keep a good variety of encouraging content for you. I think with coaching in general, whether it's a mentor of yours, whether it is a coach who does this professionally like me, a huge part is to try to give you clarity on what to work on, belief that you can do it, encouragement, guidance, showing you the path a little more clearly so you can confidently take steps forward. Coaching is a lot of those things. And I hope even just by listening to the podcast, you're being encouraged to continue to be a remodeler on the rise. What that means is 6 months ago compared to now, you have risen, which means that you are better in this area. You've improved in this area. You continue almost like a sales chart or an improvement chart. You continue to improve incrementally. You're moving in the right direction. You're not regressing. You're a remodeler on the rise. I had I had a friend of mine. It's actually that's how it is. And Bailey, you're listening to this. Your brother John, he was up north with me. He's good friends with my oldest son Thomas, and John always has a smirk on his face, and he goes, "Hey, Mr. Hunt, uh, is your business has your business reached the peak?" And I said, "No, I don't think so. I'm kind of still kind of in my in my prime." And he goes, "Well, once it's reached the peak and it starts going back the other way, you know what the business name's going to be? Instead of Remodelers on the Rise, it's going to be Remodelers on the Fall. And you're going to interview depressed remodelers who are regressing in their business and they don't make any money anymore." And he thought it was hilarious. And it was kind of funny. But this is all about Remodelers on the Rise, continual, ongoing improvement. And I hope you enjoy the show. Reach out anytime, by the way. I'm just a person up here in beautiful Brighton, Michigan. I've been coaching for going on 15 years now. Got a variety of courses, one-on-one coaching. We got the VIP club. Don't hesitate to reach out. One of my favorite things to do is to talk to somebody that's been following my work for a while, hear their story, and just give them some advice over a complimentary Zoom call. So don't be shy. Today's episode, what I wanted to kind of riff on a bit is who is your next hire and why? Who is your next hire and why? And I wanted to give you some thoughts and some guidance on that topic. One of the first things that I would very much encourage each of you listening to this to do is to create your current org chart, ORG, your current org chart. A lot of you listening are visual learners, people that have that work in remodeling, run remodeling businesses. A lot of you, and just a lot of humans in general, are very visual learners. It's helpful to kind of see it in front of you. Can you please pull out a sheet of paper? It can be as simple as that, or pull up a document, and I need you to create an org chart. What you currently have as your business. So if you are the owner, yep, you got that box at the top. Put a little box, owner, put your name in it. Underneath there, we've got the sales and the marketing side of things. If you're the only salesperson, put salesperson, put your name next to it. You might have a designer, make a box for that. You may be the designer, still make a box for that, put your name in it. You may have a design assistant, a selections coordinator, kind of build out that side of things. You got the office section, you got office manager and bookkeeper, roles like that. And then on the production side, you need to build that out. Are you the production manager? Go ahead and put your name in that, or your staff persons. Do you have project managers under that project production manager? Do you have lead carpenters? Do you have apprentices? Maybe there's a few key trade partners that you do a lot of work with. Perhaps you even include them. What I want you to do is create your current org chart. And even when you are wearing 4 or 5 hats, or somebody in your team is wearing multiple hats, make sure you have a box for each. When you can see it, when you can visually see it, it already starts getting you thinking. And again, the topic today is who is your next hire and why? Who is your next hire and why? What I want to kind of look at with the org chart is to see, all right, what am I seeing here? Are there any weak links? Is there somebody that you don't need to have on the team anymore? Is there a tough decision and conversation that you need to make, and perhaps they either need to be off the team or maybe there's a better role for them there? When you look at the positions that you have around you, where are the bottlenecks? Where are you kind of getting stuck in the sales and the design development process and the production process? Kind of be thinking strategically about that. When you look at each box on your org chart, how is the capacity for each of those team members? Is there 120% worth of work for that production manager? And that person is always spread thin. They're not as proactive as they should be on lining up the upcoming 2 weeks. They're not as proactive as you'd like them to be when it comes to job costing, when it comes to training the production team. Look at the capacity throughout your org chart. Where are people kind of bursting at the seams? Where are you needing to add capacity or take some responsibilities off of some folks? I'm wanting you just to analyze this, to look at this, and to start thinking strategically about it. Does that make sense? So I want you to create that org chart and start to ask some of these questions. Analyze that org chart. What are you seeing? What connections are you making? Are there certain team members that have too many hats on? If so, what would be one of those hats that you might be able to take off their plate? I want you to be thinking about things like that. And then secondly, create that future org chart. Think through, and maybe you just put it out there maybe 3 years, not 30 years. Maybe you put it out there about 3 years. Are there new positions that you're wanting to hire for? Are there certain hats that you want to take off some team members so they could focus exclusively on one area so they can do a better job in that area versus an okay job in multiple different areas? So create that current org chart, create that future org chart, and really start to get a visual understanding of that. Okay. So that is an idea that you may have heard of that. I would say 1 out of every 50 remodelers listening to this have actually gone through and created a current org chart and a future org chart. I would highly encourage you to do that. All right. So that's one main takeaway. The second thing is, who is your next hire and why? And I want to just kind of brainstorm with you and talk about common positions that I see a lot of my clients adding to their company, creating in their company, and just thinking back that have been really key roles that they have filled that's allowed them to continue to rise, continue to improve. Okay. So here's just some common ones, again, hopefully just to get you thinking. One would be an office manager. An office manager. If you do not currently have an office manager, I think of one of my clients, Revive Properties down in Florida, where it was Jake, the owner, doing a lot of office manager related work. His wife, MC, was doing some of that work as well. And I'm looking at their business and saying, I think you're ready to grow into that next phase. And the next hire for you is an office manager. You need to take a lot of that quote unquote $10 an hour work. I like to put our work that we do in buckets of $10 an hour, $100 an hour, $1,000 an hour. With inflation and all of that, I should probably adjust that, but 10, 100, 1,000. When you look at the work that you're doing day in and day out, what you'll notice sometimes is that instead of doing that $1,000 an hour work, the most valuable work that you could and should be focused on, you're finding yourself spending too much time doing that quote unquote $10 an hour work. You're actually entering in the invoices and the billings into QuickBooks. You're taking care of all of the billing. You're just doing basic ordering, things that are low value things for you to be doing. And in Jake's case, I was seeing him do a lot of that at the expense of the $100 and $1,000 work. And what it really took to create this position for their business is, number one, to start paying attention to all of the work that an office manager could do. Holy cow, I guess they could do permitting. Wow, they could follow up with some of my trade partners to get quotes and help on some of that estimating side of things. They could take QuickBooks totally off my plate and run with that, where I can just be reviewing it and reviewing the financials instead of being the one that puts everything in there. Oh, they can just take care of the mail. They can just take care of the basic office related needs. And then sometimes when you, number one, create that list, all of a sudden it becomes more real. This was the next position they needed to hire. It's been a year and a half or so now since they've done it. And the why is because he was in the weeds of $10 work way too often. And he was not able to continue to grow and to manage the other areas of the business. Okay. So what is your next hire and why? That's where I want you thinking. What is your next hire? Who is your next hire and why? Okay. So office manager is one I see often. Sometimes it's even just an office assistant. Sometimes some of you listening aren't able to afford a full-time office manager. And what you need to do is just take a baby step forward and find somebody for 10 hours a week. It is much more affordable. It is much more doable. There's a lot of remote options, and you would be surprised at what a relief and what a nice step forward it can be to have somebody working on your team for 10 hours a week to do a lot of that office and behind the scenes and quote unquote $10 work. Okay. Who is your next hire and why? Another example that I see often is the designer side of things. The designer side of things. I'm thinking of Ford Custom Renovations out in Pennsylvania. And, either in that case, Daniel doing some of the design work, farming some of the design and selections help out. And they needed somebody in-house to really drive the design and development and selections process forward. It was taking way too long. Trade partners they had in place for some of that wasn't working very well. Daniel had too much of that work on his plate. That was the next hire that they needed to make. And the reason for that is cycle time was taking too long. Daniel had way too much work on his plate. We needed to reduce that workload. And it was a very, very key hire for them. That was about a year and a half ago for him as well. So when you think about the design and the selections side of your business, perhaps that's your next hire. On a similar vein, a selections coordinator can make a big, big difference. I'm thinking of Diamond Hill Builders, out east, or Francis Family Renovations. Finding somebody that can quarterback and really excel at taking these 20 selections that the prospect and the client needs to make and walking them through and getting all of those selections finalized during design and development before a hammer ever hits the job site can be a really, really wonderful thing to get the project all dialed in before it starts. And it also allows the ripple effect of production to be a lot smoother because we're not making last minute choices and decisions. So maybe that's your next hire that you need to consider. And you got some reasons why. Perhaps it's more on the bookkeeping side. One of my clients, Clarkston, I'm trying to blank on Clarkston Custom Renovation. I don't think it's Clarkston Custom Renovations. I apologize, Chad and Holly. I'm butchering the last part of your business name, but that happens. And in their case, Chad was doing all of the entering into QuickBooks. Chad's got a team of almost 10 people. He's managing the sales side. He's managing the production side. And he was still sticking his nose in the QuickBooks side of things. He needed to stop doing that. He needed to hand off a ball, free up his day a little bit. In his case, he hired an outside bookkeeper named Ann, who is doing a tremendous job for him. It's been very freeing for him. It's freed up time. It's allowing him to do the other areas of his business in a much stronger way. So who do you need to hire and why? Think strategically about your business. I started by thinking about the org chart because sometimes when you see it, the need of a position just jumps out at you. It could be ones I'm mentioning: office manager, office assistant, bookkeeper, designers, selection coordinator. It could turn into a salesperson like Anthony Slayball, like Rainey Blair down in Atlanta, hiring a salesperson that really freed the owners up. It could be hiring an estimator. Who here, show of hands, loves estimating? Oh, not seeing a lot of hands. And sometimes finding an estimator who can focus in there and drive that ball forward is huge. Perhaps it's taking a lead carpenter and putting them into more of a project manager role where they're managing lead carpenters. Perhaps it's time to hire another lead carpenter so you can have another full project going to increase your revenue. Perhaps it's a material runner or an apprentice or helper. I can't tell you who it is. This is your business. This is looking and evaluating the team that you currently have, where you're trying to go in the future, looking at where the bottlenecks are, where the capacity are. Who is your next hire and why? That is your responsibility to identify that, to put together a description of what that person would do, to put a nice job description together, and to go find that person. Ooh, that's exciting. Now, the final piece I'm going to mention on this is, oh, that's cute. Kyle, you listed out all those positions. There's about 4 of them I need. The question that needs to be answered is, how are you going to pay for that new position? So whenever I'm talking to clients about a new hire, we're identifying who their next hire is and why. We're getting a good, clear definition of what that role looks like and what that person will be doing. And the next big question we have to answer is, can we afford it? How are we going to pay for this position? And what this comes down to more than anything else is to stinking know your, you know what I'm about to say? I don't even need to say it. I'm thinking about not even saying it. You already know what I'm going to say. You have to know your, starts with an N. I'm not even going to say it. If you've been following my work, if you're smart, you already know where I'm going. You've got to know your, you know what's. I know I got to say it. Your numbers. You've got to see what your top line revenue is looking like. You have to understand your cost of goods sold versus your gross profit. You have to know what your overhead expenses are and what your net profit goal is. Let's stick in that overhead expenses. If I'm going to hire an office manager, and I currently have, when I tally up all of my overhead expenses, including my owner's salary, my overhead expenses equals $300,000. That's my little office. That's this position I have. That's my owner's salary. That's my marketing and advertising, my coaching, my insurance, my gas, my fuel, all of these things that make up your overhead expenses. It's currently $300,000. If I'm going to hire a full-time office manager, I'm pay him 55, 65, 68,000 plus this, plus that. Let's just call it 75,000 buckaroonies. My overhead expenses are going from 300,000 up to $75,000 after salary and payroll taxes, etc. How do I pay for that? Am I going to increase my markup in what I'm charging so as to increase my gross profit? Am I going to increase my sales, which will give me more gross profit dollars to pay for said office manager? Those are a couple good options. How are you going to afford and pay for this new position? There's answers out there. And a lot of times it's good if you see a hire that you're going to make, maybe, okay, I have a goal here at the start of 2024. Here I am in August. I got about 5 months to plan for this. And, I'm going to change my mark. I'm going to change how I'm pricing my work so that I'm starting to charge for that higher overhead amount. I'm going to start tucking some of those dollars away, prove to myself that I can afford this position. Strategy, that's called running a business. What I'm describing there is called running a professional business. I'm being strategic about who my next hire is and why. I'm being thoughtful about how I'm going to pay for that person, the impact that position is going to have on our business. And that's going to help me confidently make this decision. I don't make hiring decisions if I don't know my numbers. I don't make hiring decisions by crossing my fingers and hoping I have enough money to do it. That's how people go out of business. That's how people lose money. We are not like that on the Remodelers on the Rise show. We plan for it. We prepare for it. We budget for it. We can confidently say, this is who I'm hiring next and why, and this is how I'm going to pay for them. And this is how I'm preparing to do that. Okay. So those are a few thoughts for you on today's Remodelers on the Rise show. Who is your next hire and why? Let's look at your current org chart. Let's think through the future org chart. Let's think strategically about where the bottlenecks are, where we're over capacity at. Let's think about some of these positions that we could create, that we could tweak, or that we could edit. But most likely for some of you, kind of create in your business to really make an impact on continuing to improve efficiency, productivity, profitability. Your team is such a critical component to the success of your remodeling business. And you, as the owner of the business or as a leader of a remodeling business, need to take this call to think strategically about the team very seriously. And I hope that my riffing on this topic got you thinking and helps you move forward in this conversation and keep you continuing on that path of being a remodeler on the rise. That's all I got for you today, my friends. Reach out anytime. Leave a review about this podcast too if you'd like, so more of your remodeling peers can hear it. Catch you later.